Maya had found the dress in Nadia's emergency wardrobe, a palace institution, apparently, maintained for exactly the kind of guest who arrived via kidnapping and desert extraction rather than advance booking. It was the color of the desert at the last moment before full dark. Not quite amber, not quite copper. Something in between that had no precise name and didn't need one. It fit as though it had been made with moderate psychic ability. Lara stood in front of the mirror at 7:45 and looked at herself and felt the specific vertigo of a woman who has spent 10 days in cargo trousers and linen shirts and has temporarily become someone a diplomat might take seriously. "You look like the protagonist," Maya said, from the chair where she had been supervising the entire process with the authority of a director who has strong opinions about the third act. "I am the protagonist," Lara said. "You know what I mean." Maya was wearing deep green, her hair magnificent, statement earrings that could be seen from a geologically significant distance. "You look like the woman the story is about." "Every story is about the woman it's about." "Lara." Maya's voice was patient and fond and slightly exasperated in the ratio she reserved for important moments. "Just let tonight be what it is. Stop managing it." Lara picked up her camera. Force of habit, armor, both. Maya opened her mouth. Lara raised an eyebrow. Maya closed her mouth. Some negotiations concluded without words. She left the camera on the nightstand. Maya smiled at the ceiling. The reception was in the grand hall, a room that operated at a scale designed to remind visiting dignitaries that Zafaran had been receiving guests since before their countries had names. High arched ceilings, brass lanterns multiplied by mirrors into something approximating a small constellation. The air cool and faintly scented with oud. 40 or 50 people circulated with the practiced ease of those for whom diplomatic events were a professional environment rather than an occasion. Lara recognized the choreography, the clusters and migrations, the invisible hierarchies of who approached whom and who waited to be approached, the smile that meant alliance, and the smile that meant surveillance, and the smile that meant nothing at all. She had photographed this world often enough to read it fluently. Tonight, she was inside the frame instead of behind the lens, which was disorienting in the particular way of seeing yourself in a mirror you didn't know was there. She accepted a glass of something sparkling from a tray and found Maya immediately at her shoulder. "Nasem is at 9 o'clock, Maya said, in the tone of someone noting the weather. "Gray suit, the older man with a silver tie. He arrived 4 minutes ago and has already spoken to 3 people I don't recognize." "How do you—" "Tariq showed me a photograph before we came down." She sipped her drink. "I've also memorized the faces of the Northern Alliance delegation, the Interior Minister, and the 2 people Yasmin has spoken to for more than 90 seconds since she arrived." "Maya, I'm a paralegal. This is what I do at parties." "Yasmin is at 3 o'clock, emerald dress, talking to a man from the Alliance delegation. She has looked toward the entrance 4 times in the last 10 minutes. Waiting for someone? Or watching for someone?" Maya's voice was perfectly light. "Drink your drink. The sheikh just entered." Sheikh Faisal moved through the room the way tidal forces move. Not dramatically, not loudly, but with the inescapable quality of something that restructures everything around it. He greeted the Alliance delegation first, then the minister, then worked the room with the unhurried confidence of a host who has done this 1,000 times and genuinely believes these events matter. He saw Lara and came to her directly, which she suspected was both courtesy and a message to the room about her status. "Miss Voss," he said. Then, "Lara, you look well." "Thank you, Faisal." The name still sat slightly formally in her mouth. He seemed to find this endearing. I hope the last few days have been restorative after your experience. More than I expected, she said honestly. Something warm moved through his eyes. He was about to say something else when a change in the room's texture drew both their attentions. Karim had entered. He was in a dark formal jacket, no tie in the Zafaran style, and he moved through the room with the same contained energy she had come to read as his natural register, aware of everything, visibly occupied with nothing. His eyes found his father first, then swept the room with the efficient accuracy of someone conducting a rapid security assessment, and then found her. He stopped moving for one complete second. Not long. No one else would have caught it. She caught it because she was paying attention to him with the specific focus she usually reserved for compositions she was trying to understand, the kind where you had to hold very still and let the image come to you rather than going after it. Then he moved again toward his father, and the moment closed like water over a stone. He reached them and greeted his father, and then looked at her and said, "Good evening," in a voice she could only describe as careful. Not distant, not formal, but careful. The way you are careful with something you've decided matters. She said good evening back. The sheikh, with the sensitivity of a man who had navigated 60-odd years of human dynamics and knew exactly what he was looking at, said something about needing to speak with the alliance lead and excused himself with the smoothness of someone doing everyone a favor. They were left standing beside each other in the constellation light of the brass lanterns, and the distance between them was less than a meter, and felt like considerably less than that. "You came without the camera," he said. "I was advised to." "By Maya." "By Maya." She looked at him. "You look formal." "It's a formal event." "You look formal in a way that is specifically different from how you look when you're just being serious." He considered this. "That's a precise distinction." "I notice things." The corner of his mouth moved. She had catalogued every variation of this, the almost smile in its different registers, and this one was new, softer than the others, less controlled. "Nasim is here," he said quietly, the formal register resuming, but not entirely. "I know. 9 o'clock, gray suit." A beat. "Maya." "Maya," she confirmed. "The authentication completed this afternoon," he said, at the same low volume. "My legal team has the file. My father's advisors have been briefed. It moves to the formal proceeding next week. Nothing will happen tonight. It's too public, too many variables. Tonight is just knowing," she said. "Yes." He looked at the room, at Nasim, making his rounds with the practiced warmth of a man who believes himself safe, at Yasmin across the room with her emerald dress and her calculations, at his father talking to the alliance delegation with the dignity of someone who doesn't yet know that the thing trying to destroy his life's work has already been named. Tonight is just knowing. Walid Nasim found her 40 minutes into the evening. She had expected this, had been watching the slow gravitational drift of his movement through the room, and knew, the way a photographer knows when a subject is about to turn, that he would arrive at her eventually. He was perhaps 65, silver-haired, with the expansive physical confidence of a man who had been the most important person in most rooms for most of his life. His smile was excellent. His eyes were doing something his smile was not. "Miss Voss," he said, "the American photographer. I've heard a great deal about you." All good, I hope, she said, which was what people said. Extraordinary, more precisely. He accepted a glass from a passing tray without looking at it, his eyes staying on her with the assessing quality she recognized from editors who were deciding whether something was useful. A remarkable story, your adventure in the interior. Hassan's territory, no less. A pause so brief it was almost not a pause. You must have been frightened. Briefly, she said. I'm fairly hard to frighten. I imagine so. A woman in your profession. The smile. What brings you to Zafaran originally? The ruins? The light, she said. The ruins were the assignment. The light is always the real reason. And are you still shooting? Even after everything? She looked at him, at the excellent smile and the assessing eyes and the 65 years of practiced confidence, and thought about frame 38 and the metadata and the authentication completed that afternoon and the legal team already moving. And she smiled back at him with the full, easy warmth of someone who has nothing to hide because everything worth hiding has already been found. Always, she said. The camera sees everything. That's the thing I love about it. Something moved in his eyes, very fast, very controlled. She would not have caught it without the specific quality of attention she was bringing to him, the way she brought it to subjects she needed to understand before she could photograph them honestly. But she caught it. A flicker of something cold beneath the warmth, there and gone, like a current beneath still water. How long do you stay? He asked pleasantly. A few more days, she said. The light here is exceptional. I keep finding reasons to stay. Don't we all, Nassim said, and excused himself with the grace of someone who has decided the conversation is complete. She watched him go. Her hand was very steady. Her heart was not. She found Karim at the edge of the room 20 minutes later, half turned toward the window, and stood beside him and said quietly, He knows something is wrong. He doesn't know what. I saw you talking to him. He came to me. He was fishing. What did you give him? Nothing he could use. She paused. I told him the camera sees everything. Karim looked at her. For a moment, the formal version of him was entirely absent. Just the man who had driven 4 hours to a plateau and talked about his grandfather and held her camera with the careful respect of someone who understands instruments. That was either very brave or very reckless, he said. In my experience, they're usually the same thing. He looked at her for a long moment in the lantern light, the constellation above them, the room full of its careful diplomacies and hidden architectures, and the slow, inevitable motion of things that had already been set in motion. Then he said, very quietly, with the directness of a man who has decided that careful is no longer sufficient. When this is over, the agreement, Nassim, all of it, I would like to show you the rest of Zafaran. Not as a guest, not as a journalist. A pause. I would like to show it to you the way I showed you the plateau. She looked at him. The dress the color of desert dusk, the lantern light, the room full of people who were watching for weakness and seeing none. She felt the 7 days in her chest like a clock, and the dissolution papers like a door, and everything beyond both of those like a country she didn't have a map for yet. "I'd like that," she said. It was Tariq who found her at the end of the evening, when the guests were thinning and the lanterns had been turned low, and Maya was on the far side of the room, apparently teaching Nassim's personal secretary a card trick, with a focus that suggested it was not entirely about the card trick. Tariq's face had lost its usual lightness. He took her arm gently and steered her toward the corridor, with the quiet urgency of someone carrying bad news carefully. "What?" she said. "Yasmin," he said. "She left 20 minutes ago. Her room has been cleared." A pause. "And one of my father's senior advisors just found an envelope on his desk. Photographs of you and Karim at the plateau this morning." He looked at her with an expression that was equal parts apology and alarm. Someone was watching, and whoever it was, they sent copies to 3 members of the Northern Alliance delegation, with a note suggesting that the Sheikh's son is conducting a personal relationship with the American journalist whose kidnapping he arranged. Another pause. Her word. Arranged. Next chapter. The move. By morning, the story had a shape. Yasmin had not fled. She had moved. There is a difference, and the difference was everything.